Yo, week 6 has been wrapped up. This week really focused on three things. One, keeping the socials going, keeping the newsletter going. Here I am, keeping the video series going to kind of show the behind the scenes. You can hear my authentic voice. Also, follow along in the newsletter. I'll leave the link in the video description. Two was the attestations. I needed to get that done basically to prove to Plaid that, like, I'm ready to go live. I'm ready to connect real bank accounts. And then finally, prototyping. This is actually the first text that was ever sent. And that was like a really big moment. And before I get into that, I kind of want to lay out the plan as it is right now. I want to do about 2 to 3 weeks of prototyping, really with myself, just getting out all the kinks and the stuff, really think through everything, making sure that the onboarding is easy. The onboarding, ideally, when people start to do it, takes less than 5 minutes and anyone can do it. That's going to be very, very important. It needs to be kind of frictionless. Not kind of, it needs to be frictionless, or as frictionless as I can make it. So we're going to have about 2 to 3 weeks of prototyping. Then we're going to do about 3 weeks to maybe a month of beta, and then we'll go live hopefully towards the end of June, which is going to be really exciting. And for beta, if you're in the US, I'm basically looking for 10 people that want to really connect their bank accounts and start using CHUMP, right? When you use CHUMP and you get a streak going, your streak actually won't officially count until we fully launch. But if you want to be a beta test user, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. I'm going to leave that link below as well. But let's go back to prototyping. So this week was kind of crazy because it was wild to get the first text from CHUMP and then be able to connect my bank account, be able to connect my, be able to pay with Stripe, and then be able to get my username and really start to like get into it. This week, I'm excited to see how CHUMP, sends out the daily text. But I think the thing that became really clear to me was like this idea of using texts and using not apps, not going through the Google Play Store, not going through the App Store, I think is going to be something that people are going to look at CHUMP and they're going to say, you know what, I think he's onto something. People are already in their texts all day, or they're already in their WhatsApps. And why don't we just meet the customer where they are with the product or service? And CHUMP is not a budget app. CHUMP is not going to tell you what to invest in. CHUMP, at the end of the day, is just a super simple way to get money clarity, to see what's in your bank account, to see what you've spent, and kind of stay on top of that. Because I know for me, I have like 6 or 7 different bank accounts over three banks, and I have 2 different credit cards. And for me, it's like not easy to truly understand how much money I have at any one time, where things are, what I've actually spent money on. I have to open up all these accounts, use 2-factor authentication, do this and that, a lot of friction. If I can just go into my texts and talk to my money because I'm talking to CHUMP and CHUMP is connected to my bank accounts, that at the end of the day, that was like what I hope CHUMP does for people. And it's going to be less than, I think it's going to be like 33 cents a day. So for 33 cents a day to have money clarity, I mean, we all spend way more money on things that are just not worth it. But going back to this like original text, it was cool to get that. It was cool to be like, oh my God, I've done this. I'm a non-technical person. I'm a non-coder. I'm building. Wow. It's kind of a wow moment because I've wanted to build on the internet for such a long time, but I'm not a coder and I don't have endless amount of money to give to developers. So I felt like I couldn't. And I actually wrote in the newsletter this week, it's about how if you have an idea, now is the time to build it. Basically, like I also, in all the videos I do and the content I've created over the years, I used to create content for companies and run media. I would never ever give advice that I'm not following myself. Or if I did, it made me feel I never enjoyed that. And I'm sure I have done that in the past. But when I talk to people now about like, hey, if you have an idea, go try to build it. It's because I'm trying to do that right now. And I've had this idea for CHUMP, or the idea of like, we need to have centralization is okay, right? Like centralizing that type of information so then you can make better decisions and have more money clarity. I think it's really powerful. So kind of talking a lot, talking a mile a minute, but week 6 was good. We kept going with the media because I think half of launching anything on the internet is talking about it and talking about as many places you can post and talking to people who will, hear you out. And so if you have a podcast or if you have a content, if you run a YouTube or you have a content platform, you want me to come on and talk about CHUMP, I'd love to. 2 is the attestations. I'm so glad that that's in the rearview mirror. We can move forward. And now we're prototyping, which is very, very exciting. And it really feels like we are iterating in real time. And iterating with Claude has been just an absolute breeze. So excited to do that. But yeah, week 6 was really all about prototyping. So stay tuned for week 7. I'll hopefully have some more screenshots. This was a screenshot, like what you see here was me going through a post-payment screen. When you look at version 1, it was super tiny. It must have been like 4 font. I'm like, I can't read this. Then it gave, the second one, I think it had green. It actually had to get Jarrett, my personal brand green. I'm like, no, that's not on branding. I know where you pulled that from. That's not on branding. And then we finally were able to move it into something I think I like. I may fine tune that even more. I think one of the things with the UX as like people go through the process is as people are onboarded, they're really never going to have any engagement with like what Chump's UX is because they're only going to go to the website. You're going to put in your number. You're going to hit text me and then it's going to text you. You're going to open up text and then the entire onboarding process is through text. So that post payment screen that you're seeing is once you pay in Stripe, whether you pay the monthly or the annual, that screen will pop up and say, hey, thanks so much for paying. You're in. Go back to your text and Chump will hit you up. But there's very, very few times that the users are actually going to engage with UX, which is a completely new experience, I think, for everyone, because normally when you download an app or you're using a desktop app, you're very, very aware when you're in the ecosystem because of how it feels, the look and the feel, right? The user experience, the user interface, right? So this is interesting. This is different, but that was something that I actually had to iterate UX on because I wanted to stay away from UX. I don't want the feeling and the benefit of Chump to be taken away by, oh, I didn't use the right color or I didn't use the right font because it's just going to be in people's iMessage, right? So that was kind of an interesting one. There's a little behind the scenes so you can see a little bit more of like how I was iterating how it would look. But like I said, Chump's not an app. It's going to live in your text. And the whole onboarding process is essentially going to be in your text about 90% of the time. Obviously, you're going to go to Stripe, you're going to pay, you're going to go to Plaid, you're going to connect your bank accounts. But there we are. We're prototyping. We're off and running. Week 6. I will see you very, very soon for week 7. If you're watching this and you made it this far, thank you for following. Comment, build below, and then I'll know that somebody watched it, that you're following along, and that would mean the world to me. So I'll see everyone for week 7, and I hope you're well.